Ooh, painful. Very, very nasty. Really good video, by the way. If you're not watching Dash's stuff, go and watch it. That's a reason enough. Just that one video. Really, really interesting. I've got a couple of things to say about it, actually, though. And this is just to support and expand on the points that Dash raises or illustrates. He well understands these because he knows his stuff back to front, particularly when it comes to slinging. And I should say, by the way, there was a small part of me, which I'm ashamed to admit, kind of wanted to put on a suit of Lorica segmentata and, yeah, take some slings just to see what it was like. But I should add, not as heavy as the stones that he was using there, because that was quite, yeah, that was really quite something. And I just want to sort of unwrap that a bit more. So that was a flat trajectory with a very heavy stone. That's going to cause loads of damage. That's lining it up. That's one of those sort of punch baggy things that you see at fairs where you measure your strength type scenarios. But it's a great illustration. And I also thought it was pretty interesting just how the Lorica absorbed the impact, because it did take quite a lot of it. I mean, you saw how much damage it did to it. Well, it was absorbing that damage. It'd be very interesting to know what sort of stress that would have put on the body of anyone wearing it. Now, when we talk about slinging, and I've made this point before, generally speaking, those sort of size stones that he was using, he says in the video, they're big. We're talking much smaller for general purposes. Now, of course, I'm talking about a long period of history, because we're talking ancient Greeks through to the Romans and other peoples as well using them. And obviously my knowledge is more associated with the ancient Greeks and the Romans. That's what I'm going to talk about here. And they were normally around 50 grams, or rather, that's the lead bullets. So you have lead bullets that the Romans made, and the Greeks, we found, I think, lead bullets with Greeks as well. And they're around 50 grams, and they are shaped like olive pips, I suppose. And you can think that's a really good design because they fly through the air, and they also could stick in you. I think there's been some work done on exactly how they might be able to, you know, if they hit unprotected part of the body, they would stick inside or penetrate the flesh to a certain degree. Again, you have a lot of variables on that. Depends what the trajectory is, how close up, lots of other things. But I think that's a possibility. And annoyingly, I couldn't find it, but I do remember reading once that there was in one of the Roman medical journals, there was actually a procedure for getting them out. But anyway, that aside, there was also a psychological impact of these, because you couldn't see them, you just know they were there. And in fact, there were some that the Romans had which had holes in them, and these were lighter, so they wouldn't do as much damage, but they made a whistling sound, and these would really spook people out, and that was the intention. And this speaks to a wider point, sometimes it's a bit underrated, of the psychological warfare, or the psychological aspect to warfare, because a lot of the stuff that went on within the battles of the Romans and the Greeks was preparing the soldier mentally for the engagement, whilst also trying to unprepare the enemy. And these are one such tactic. You would hear these going over you. You wouldn't be able to see them. There'd just be these weird noises. And perhaps if it's your first time in battle, this is a bit too much. You are shaken up, can't engage properly. Perhaps you decide, no, not today, whatever. So these were all ways in which I suppose the Roman military and earlier militaries looked to destabilize their opponents, because engagement, after all, was a costly thing. And people like to think that ancient Roman armies in particular were very, very happy just to send men in. But the reality was that Roman soldiers were assets. They weren't assets to be expended on. You'd spent a lot of time training them. So you wanted to limit the amount of time they actually had engagement. And you might do that through trying to effectively scare off the enemy. And we know that happened as well in hoplite battles, because there's lots of pre-rituals that would solidify the confidence of the men who were engaging, whilst also seeking to potentially destabilize. And there's one instance, the Spartans, for example, were noted because they marched in step and they didn't make a noise. So if you were facing them on the battlefield, you'd see this very well ordered army just coming to you. And that, again, may have got in your head a bit. Anyway, great video. Sorry for the length of this video, but just to remind you that effectively bullet size, as it were, those stones or the lead bullets for slings, a lot smaller, 50 grams or thereabouts, that kind of a thing. Still cause a lot of damage though. If they're going to hit you in the open, you're going to get bruising, possible breakage, and even if you're wearing armour, they're going to ping around. They might concuss. I mean, there's that sort of possibility, or just generally, yeah, cause varying types of different damage, going from the physical to disorientation. But again, watch more of Dash's stuff. I will be, and I'll be wincing when he damages more Roman armour, but also thinking, would I? Anyway. Thanks.